Let's move on now to our second session on international climate change regimes. The same format as the previous session. We have, again, three very distinguished speakers whom we're very privileged to have here with us today. And I'll just introduce them one by one this time as they speak. Our first speaker is Mutsuyoshi Nishimura, who is the Special Advisor on Climate Change to the Government of Japan. He's not only very well positioned to give us some Japanese perspectives, but Mr. Nishimura is a long-time climate change negotiator, and I think in that role he's had a lot of time to think. And I invite him to come and share his thoughts on present and his vision for the future. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And thank you indeed, very much indeed for inviting me to this occasion, which makes me come back to my old city after 25 years ago, only to find that the city is just as beautiful, small. people just as beautiful and friendly and hospitable as 25 years ago, only to find Vegemite smelling just the same way as 25 years ago. So thank you very much indeed for that. Talking about the Japanese perspective, just briefly, no, we are not going to desert Kyoto Protocol. All we are insisting is that all major emitters by this late hour should come on board on the same equal footing system with different size of actions. Size of actions should be different, but it with same rule, same legal framework. That is what we are insisting. I think that position is scientifically justified. All major emitters must come on board with their numbers, different numbers. This position is justified from the scientific point of view. I think it is politically correct, and also I think it is morally sound. So that's what we are seeking in our way to Cancun. Don't believe that we are leaving Kyoto Protocol and say goodbye and let things loose. Far from that. We are so seriously concerned about climate change, its terrible effects to this generation and to the next generations, that we need, by this late hour, I must emphasize, by this late hour, we really have to have at least all emitters, all major emitters, come on board on the same framework. Having said this, let me talk about something after 2020, because fantastic they are all these actions we are conducting, we are pushing forward. The Copenhagen Accord, 85% pledges, and all actions you have been talking about today in this room are so fantastically beautiful. I'm not taking any cynical attitude on this. Genuinely, I believe this is the right direction. And we really have to enhance those actions. But this is something which is slightly different from what my mother used to say. in my childhood, my mother used to tell me, son, if you work harder, then you can achieve something better. So I believe that. I worked hard, so I come to this podium. But this is not something like my mother's teaching. All we have to achieve is 450 ppm, things of that nature. It is not to get something better. All we have to do is to achieve climate stability one way or another at an acceptable level. So it's not a literally objective. It is not emotionally objective. It is a numerical objective that is in place. That's what we have to achieve. So it's all okay, all actions, and we are doing in my country, you are doing in your country, and we are all moving forward to make our system low carbon. And that's all good. But we must achieve that numerical target one way or another down the road. Otherwise, we are irrelevant. Those actions are irrelevant. So that is the reason why I come to conclude, after my experiences as climate negotiator on behalf of Japan. After my experience as climate negotiator, I come to conclude that by playing the current game, we cannot achieve this. We cannot achieve climate change. That is my deep belief. Because current game plan is basically based upon arbitrary national ambitions. Arbitrary national ambitions, aggregated, will never achieve 450 ppm or whatever numerical target we may be adopting. First and foremost, I think international community must adopt those numbers, those concrete targets in numerical terms, even for precautionary purposes. And then over time, you can revise those numerical targets. But at least we really have to have numerical targets in place. Otherwise, all our actions are irrelevant. In order for all our actions not irrelevant, we really have to have a new system. Because national ambition will never achieve, aggregated, never achieve. On top of that, I must tell you, you really have to go one day to the negotiating table of all those guys, including me, myself. You are finger pointing all the time. You are quarreling all the time. And you are disputing all the time. And you are making a huge honeycomb of bureaucracy, of technical details, whereby you try to balance interests of developing countries versus interests of rich countries. So it's an amazing maze you will find. How can you believe and trust that one day we can achieve and win this huge battle by doing all these things. I think once and for all, we really have to have new regime, a game change. Not for today, obviously, because we are debating all these issues, whether we are going to have a single undertaking or not. I think until 2020, Bali Action Plan will dictate the actions and the discussions on the basis of Bali Action Plan will dictate what we are going to do through 2020. But after 2020, that is a question, a serious question. What we are going to do? Do we continue this quarreling system, or do we start something new in order to win this battle? In my okay. So in my plan, please ask me in the question time. What is my plan? I talked about it in detail, but in a nutshell, this is simple. This is simple. Instead of putting a lid on national emissions, which is the cause of all woes, instead of putting lid on national emissions, let us put lid on global emissions on the basis of carbon budget that will ensure 2 degrees Celsius, for example, if we choose to 2 degrees as our common target. Then let all governments put property rights on that carbon space. 2 degree ensuring carbon space will become property of all governments, and all governments will sell those spaces to all emitters of the world. So this is just extension, global extension of national emission trading system, whereby you can raise enormous amount of new wealth because you sell. Assembly of governments will sell those carbon spaces to all emitters. Then you obtain huge amount of money, which will, in my calculation, dwarf $100 billion, very famous $100 billion Copenhagen Accord is talking about. But by this way, we can emit as much as you like, as long as you can pay carbon price. We can create one single carbon price, and that will do the job. I think 2 minutes is up, so please ask me later if you like, or otherwise please look at my paper. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I should say we will be posting all the presentations and papers on the website in the coming days. Our second speaker is Eka Melisa. Eka Melisa is the Vice Chair of the Working Group on International Negotiations of the National Council of Climate Change of the Government of Indonesia. You can imagine that in that role she's extremely busy, and so we're very grateful to you for coming to join us today. We look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm really glad to be here. It is a change after a long negotiations. I think Ambassador Nishimura is very much aware of this, and we miss him actually. He's not in the room anymore, and we really miss the strengths during the negotiations. So what I'm trying to put here in my presentation is how Indonesia look at how we can also contribute to the global efforts of the international regime on climate change. Before that, I would like to Okay, I just want us to look at what is the state of the art of international debate. Thank you so much. I'm you can see that as everybody says on the previous speakers, saying about this more polarizing issues and groups after COP15. We see a lot of new groups, new power groups, actually LDCs, but also some countries that are not really in the negotiation before, kind of like the ALBA groups, but they're coming and becoming even more powerful than we ever see. And then we also see a lot of the shifting relationships between northern and the southern countries. As we saw before, when we are saying about negotiations, about a global international negotiation, people always think about northern and southern kind of like donors and recipients partnerships. But that is not what happened in UNFCCC, because everybody has the same contribution actually, but there is also still some different responsibilities, different efforts, but also a different capability for its countries to contribute on that. So we saw that a little bit as a different relationship happen in the UNFCCC and in the other negotiations. And also what is about, I think it's my concerns, is that we saw more and more bilaterals negotiation and less multilaterals. I think this is showing us that more countries and more parties is kind of like probably losing their faith on the multilateral negotiations. But this is climate change. This is a global issue. You need multilaterals as a vehicle to really develop the solutions. And then also lower expectations for Cancun. More meetings, a lot of meetings. I don't remember how many days actually I have in my home countries. Always traveling, always meetings. But funny, the lower expectations happen with Cancun. So it's really strange state of the arts. And somebody in the UNFCCC keeps saying that the difficulties of the negotiation in the UNFCCC is that the issues is too political for technocrats, but it's too technical for politicians. So it's kind of, everybody's kind of trying to figure out how to deal with climate change. And, okay, how to do it? Okay. There you are. And Stephen says that I might want to also touch upon what Indonesia does in terms of domestic actions. Because I think Indonesia sees climate change as a global issue, but it also needs actions domestically. Because you cannot solve an issue in global if none of the parties, none of the countries do something. But then, if you're asking just one country to do something, and then it's also not a good solution. So what our president has is that before COP15 actually, during a G20 meeting in Pittsburgh, he announced that Indonesia will have a voluntary GHG emission reduction target by 2020. It is 26% by our national budget. So this is, it's not really exclusively only by national budget, but it will be driven by the national budget. And then we have like 15 additional if there is an international support to have. And on doing this, I mean, we will achieve it through national and sub-national action plan. I have to say, I have to repeat it again, this is a voluntary GHG emission target. So we're not really taking target in terms of the UNFCCC target. Okay. And this is the profile of the Indonesian GHG emission by 2005. This is the formally introduced in a second national communication of Indonesia to the UNFCCC. We have several questions about how much is actually our real emissions, and then there's a lot of studies about what is the real numbers, but this is the number that we use right now. You can see that Indonesia has a lot of issues with the forestry and land use and the peatland, but then we also, although it's very small, growing issues, growing emissions on the electricity, the transportation, and also the cement. And this is what we've done. This is the international potential emission reduction measures. We kind of trying to put together, looking at all the measures that we can do, and then see which one is the lower hanging fruit that we can develop, and then also on our development plan. And this is what, if I can say it, Indonesia has always seen that climate change is an important issue, but as I think as most of developing countries is, when you are responding to climate change in the developing countries, you cannot kind of cutting all of these issues as new issues, but you need to look at what is the development, what is the sustainable development means to that country. So we saw that CO2 reductions, the climate change issues is only one issue that has to be integrated with also the issues of the economic developments. We have a lot of poverty issues still going on, and then we shouldn't make environment versus development or climate change versus economic issues, but we need to put it together, integrate it into a very strong carbon emission development. And this is just an example of how we do it in the sub-national level. So first we develop the carbon development plan in provincial and district level, and then we incorporate the sustainable development criteria, and then we reform the planning. So what we've done right now, several of the districts is actually currently doing a low carbon development planning, reform their planning, and then incorporate the climate change criteria and issues. And this is just an example. But we also know that we cannot do and fulfill our target, our own target, the voluntary target, by doing by ourselves. So what happened is Indonesia is also very much active on doing an international collaborations, international partnerships. I know that a lot of you probably have a question on our latest bilateral with the Norwegians. And this is actually an example that how we see an international cooperation like this could also help our contributions and our target, achieving our target. Although this is a bilateral, what we really see how the bilateral can also support and can also fulfill the target national. I'm sorry, I'm a little bit jet lagged. And this is what is, I think, how to relate the domestic actions plan to the international international regimes. Because as Ambassador Nishimura says before me, and then I think several others as well say that no country can do it alone. Alliance is very important. And by doing the domestics only, you cannot achieve what is needed to really stabilizing the greenhouse gases. But then if you are not doing anything domestically, then you can also not contribute on anything. So what we've done right now is that although we are doing a lot domestically, Indonesia is looking at what we can see as an alliance among parties. There's an issues of, I think several people always say about G77, it's breaking. Although I'm not sure they're breaking up, because alliance is making everything stronger. But yes, there is a different voices coming up from the groups, and it might setting up a little bit on the negotiations. But I think that's a good way to really shaping the negotiation, moving forward from only talking, only doing, trying to agree on the text, but really moving on the actions. So we saw a lot actually in the negotiations, a new alliance between developed and developing countries, annexed and non-annexed. It got a little bit blurred now. But, okay, that's only 2 slides. But what important is that although it's so many differences, we need one voice. One voice on how we will do the international regime. And what is the international regime? Actually, nobody knows right now. If you're asking for everybody in the negotiation forum, nobody knows what is international regime at this moment. Everybody has their own ideas. So we need to really see how we can move forward and then leave that and looking for win-win solutions. And what is also very important is we need to have, as soon as possible in Cancun, is the definition of a fair and balanced outcome. How the building blocks of the Bali action plans are being addressed. Everybody has a different perspective with different interpretations of a Bali action plan, but then we need to really looking at how to move it, like having a work program in Cancun. And then for us, Cancun is still an important milestone. Yes, it might be very low, it might be, we might end it with only like a set of decision, very low, if you say, binding decisions, but we do need the decisions. Although, and then the question is, what will be the content of the Cancun outcome? From our perspective, the Cancun outcome should at least consist of a set decisions that looking at these things. First one is a collective goal for developed countries' emission reduction target. I agree that we cannot only expect developed countries to do everything and then developing countries just sit and then watch. Idea is not a good way to move forward. But then we need the target. We spend like 3 or 4 years just to negotiate the number. And we forgot that actually a lot of things in the UNFCCs that are actually already touched upon the implementation. We always look at the ad hoc working group, for example. We never see how we can move the subsidiary body for implementation, truly move and then answer this question. And then the effort of the developing countries should be achieved through the NAMAS. We haven't agreed what is NAMAS. We have to agree what is the NAMAS, the National Appropriate Mitigation Action, means in Cancun. Otherwise, we cannot really move and do a new development planning process that incorporates the NAMAS. We also have to answer questions about adaptation and particular funding. Funding for adaptation is very important. Everybody's talking about cutting deeper emissions, but then I think more people forget that even if you're cutting a lot of things, but you don't have anything to adapt, and then the effect of climate change is happening anyway. And then finance. So you have the utilization of fast-track finance. I know that several countries actually not agree with us about this, that there should be a decision on the fast-track finance. We have Copenhagen Accord agree on a Copenhagen Green Fund. But honestly saying, we haven't really heard about it until now. How we can deliver the Copenhagen Green Fund funding. And then we need the general rules and procedure for long-term funds administration. So the long terms is very important. We need to also see what will happen after 2020. It's not going to be stopped, the actions after 2020. And the last one is the technology development, the low carbon technology development. I'd say I really want to stress the word development. It's not a transfers, as we see like, currently, that a new technology moving from one country to one country, and in particular from northern and southern. But what we need is how these parties together can develop a low carbon technology, and more importantly between the south and south countries. This is what we see as the Cancun outcome. And this is Manas. Basically, you're saying that let's work, get the action done, and solve out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eka, our third and final speaker on this panel is Dr. Tae Yong Jung. He's the Deputy Executive Director of the Global Green Growth Institute. The product of Korea, that institute itself is a very interesting international innovation. Korea's been a very important player in the international discussions. Look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's my honor and pleasure to make a presentation in this occasion. Well, my dilemma as the last speaker before the lunch is I know the public interest in this room, but my self-interest is to spend more time on my own materials. So there's some conflict between my self-interest and your interest. But yesterday we had a lot of good discussions. We had round tables, and especially during the dinner time, I had a good discussion with the colleagues. So yesterday I spent more time to change my slide. So I really hope to spend more time on my material. But I understand your interest. So I think that's the situation where we talk about the climate change. I think a public global interest and the national interest, there are some conflict. And we try to find the solution from there. And as Ambassador Nishimura clearly mentioned, we have a clear goal. And also my previous speaker from Indonesia, she mentioned several different views on this new international schemes and structures and framework. Well, but the question is how, and I really want to share the Koreans' view and Koreans' experience, how we could deliver this issue from Koreans' perspective. Maybe you know that the Korea in 1960 was one of the least developing countries. At that time, our per capita income was less than $100. And yeah, half centuries ago, Korea was one of the poorest countries in the world. And half century later, this year, Korea became one of the OECD donor member countries. We became the OECD country 1997, but unfortunately, after just become the member of OECD, we faced this Asian financial crisis. And Korea had experienced very severe economic damages, and we overcome. And 2 years ago, when we faced this global financial crisis, we have learned something from decades ago. So Korea could move very quickly. So we could make the case, so-called green stimulus package done by Korea became one of the examples, including China. So we learned something, and I think this morning the U.S. Secretary showed a very nice picture saying that during the Kyoto regime only 28%, but the commitment under Copenhagen Accord is about 80%. So global community, we learned something. But what I want to say today is what Koreans have learned, and that's green growth. I think we just say we have to move to the low carbon society. Yeah, that's true, but how? And again, as one of the advanced developing country, Korea find our own solutions. That's the green growth. So we have to do our role as one of the global community member. But before that, for this very much selfish reason, we have to do something internally, domestically. That's the green growth in Korea, and I want to share that one. Well, the green growth is combining and harmonizing environmental concern and economic development. But this is very much interesting reason why Korea is doing green growth. Not because of global warming. I'm sorry to say, but the more immediate reason why we are doing green growth is because of this energy security issue. As Dr. Pan just mentioned in previous session, Korea is one of the most energy vulnerable countries. Our, Koreans are working very hard to sell out our cell phone and cars and so on, and we try to make the money, but we have to spend more than $140 billion per year to buy energy. So that's the situation, and our energy source from abroad are more than 95%, 97% of our energy are coming from abroad, including your country. And our fossil fuel dependency is more than 80%. So that's the Korean situation, and how to overcome this. That's our immediate concerns and agenda. So that's why we try to find the solution. That's the green growth. So we face this triple crunches, and then we try to still make the economic growth. That's the bottom line. That's the underlying reason why we are doing this green growth. And for last 60 years, we Koreans were very much stupid that we saw this black smoke from the chimney, that we saw that's the economic prosperity, economic development. That's the last 60 years Koreans experience. But the message that we're going to deliver to the developing country, don't do that. Because for next 60 years, we have to be green. So you can achieve both economic growth and the environmental conservation. That's the message that we want to deliver. We want to share with the global community. Well, we have so many strategies and plans and visions, but I think you can find this one from my slide. And one of the early movers in this area, for the green growth area, Korea could do it because I think we have a strong leadership. And our president, he made it clear that I'm going to move to this direction. And then fast integrating of our visions in all sectors, from this top-down signal and all the sectors, we have to somehow integrate, and then we could make it. And as a small open economy in Korea, we still keep considering the competitiveness, our competitiveness, where we could find our competitiveness in the global market. Still, Korea can continue to sell out our cell phones for next 20 years. Why not? We have to think about our international competitiveness. Finally, Korea made a very concrete action plan. And our government to secure that we're going to put extra 2% of our GDP to the green area. And based on that public sector, we made a very clear, detailed plan. And these green actions, we have these 5 components. But I want just to emphasize one thing for the global community. Well, Korea can Korea do it alone? I think we try to do something for the global green cooperation. No, I think Korea is a small country, we cannot do it. So we have to work together with the UN agencies and other international organizations. And green ODA. Well, as I said, Korea becomes a donor country in this year, and we announced that by end of 2020. 30% of our ODA becomes green. So we're going to put our ODA money to the green area. That's very much a challenging target. And East Asia Climate Partnership, well, our government also announced that within 2012, I think we're going to spend $200 million, it's grant money, for climate area. And Global Green Growth Institute, where I belong to, just a 3-month-old baby, but we launched this institute, tried to make it as an international facility in 2 years. And then climate financing cooperation, I think my previous speaker also mentioned this issue, but how to mobilize this large scale of money from the global community and to use it effectively, and Korea want to play the role over there. Yeah, 2 more minutes, yeah. Okay, and I think you could find some details, but one thing that I want to say here, we have very much clear 10 policy directions and 27 green technology development programs. But over there, I think, again, I think the green growth component, all those are related to low carbon, but the one thing that I want to really highlight, in the middle, there is a green people over there, right? So whatever we are doing, we try to calculate how much job we could create, how much economic positive implication of such policies. So even if it's very crude, and I'm sure that our national think tank people, they're working on developing further. But the important point, when we deliver our messages to the public and to stakeholders in Korea, we always talk about, okay, by doing this, we're going to create X amount of jobs. So that's very much powerful and important to talk with the peoples who has more interest in their income. rather than the global warming. So Korea has learned how to communicate with our domestic stakeholders. They have more interest in economic growth. But by doing so, we could do both. We could move toward the low carbon society, which is our contribution to the global community. At the same time, we could secure our green jobs for our economy. I think that's the message that I want to deliver and I want to share with the global community. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Jung. We are a little bit behind schedule, but we will have time for one round of questions before we break for lunch. So, yeah, we see quite a few. Let's go to Arm first. And then in front. Yeah, in the middle. Yeah.
I'm Wilson from Eva, and I would like to point my finger to our Japanese members here. And I'd like to ask you questions. You have us.
Thank you.
And you have a very good plan. And my understanding is that you would like the world to agree on ultimate targets like 2 degrees Celsius or 400 parts per million by, say, 2100. And design an emission pathway from now to 2100 and agree that as a budget environment for the world. And so they can do intertemporal trade of emission budgets, whatever. And that's okay, that part I don't have problem in understanding. I have got a question here. Do you have any plan on distributing the rights to these countries?
Okay, yep, so we'll hold that question. And I think in the side here, and then Peter.
Murray Griffin, a journalist with Carbon and Environment Daily and with BNA. A question for Eka Melisa. I was wondering to what extent the international uncertainty has hindered efforts to get investment from or support from other countries to prevent deforestation. And could you elaborate on some of the bilateral initiatives that are in the pipeline to sort of sidestep the problems caused by that uncertainty?
Peter?
I'm Peter Wood from the Crawford School. I was taking note that Indonesia is likely to be a recipient of mitigation finance for developing countries, and Japan and Korea perhaps likely to be donors. Do you see mitigation finance being happening within the UNFCCC or through bilateral measures? And for offset markets, is that more likely to happen through project-based approaches like similar to the CDM, or more likely through new mechanisms such as sectoral crediting?
Yeah, I think I'll try to people who haven't asked questions before already, so there's so many people here.
Leo Dobbs, Crawford School. Question to Professor Nishimura, if I may. Professor, I wonder if we shouldn't scrap all the targets and stop all the negotiations. I have a hypothesis after listening to our speakers today that we should only rely on Korea and China because they will put so much competitive pressure, trade pressure on other countries that other countries will automatically start to reduce their carbon emissions. So we don't really need any more targets. We just wait for Korea and Japan to go forward.
Okay, we'll take one more question. All right, well, let's take this group of questions then. We've got a lot. We'll just go through the same order as we had the panel.
Can I?
Please.
To the first question, I have a plan. And thank you for your understanding for my plan. Division of allowances will be made by agreement of governments. maybe on the basis of whatever equity, which would reflect historical realities, or which would reflect per capita emissions. They must come to agree on country A will get so much and country B will get so much on the basis of this criteria. That criteria can be many ways. I mean, there is no fixed criteria as far as I'm concerned. As long as governments agree, that's all okay. Because in my plan, all allowances will go to the market, create one single carbon price worldwide, which is going to be applied across the board to all countries, to all enterprises. So therefore, as long as market is global and all allowances, and that is a reflection of carbon space, are going to be put in place in the global market so that they create one single carbon price, then it's okay. Whatever criteria you may choose, there will be lots of discussions, even quarreling, because country A will say, oh, I'm disadvantaged in terms of allocations in comparison to country B. So you can see lots of quarrels. But one thing which is very, very important is that in front of you, you have this huge amount of new wealth. Huge amount of new wealth. Inside, if you agree with this plan, this will create huge amount of new revenue, which comes from externality payment, global externality payment. So once you have this huge chunk of money, then I really don't think nations will beach everything to the bottom. So that is a clue, that is a key point. To the second question, yeah, of course, we are doing the same. What is the relationship between that reality and my plan?
No.
No. If I may rephrase the question, then, if we leave it to Japan and Korea, we don't have to do anything because they will put so much trade pressure on other countries to reduce their energy usage that we'll eventually get down to a very low carbon economy globally.
So we don't need your plan.
Okay. Without my plan, if we can achieve 450 ppm or whatever target numerical, then it's all okay. Then it's okay. I don't pretend I'm offering a solution, ultimate solution. I believe in my plan, but if it is possible to achieve there, all okay, great.
Eka.
Very good. And then the questions, I think, what is our perceptions about the uncertainty in the international negotiations in doing the environmental deforestation? I don't think so. I mean, what happened right now, at least in Indonesia and Brazil, for example, a lot of investment on avoiding deforestation, reducing emissions from deforestation is happening. But the question is, although it is, we can see it as a stick, a very important and useful stakes to really coming solving this uncertainty. What we are trying not to get really, putting too much on the bilateral is that we still have to remember climate change is a global issue. Climate change is problems arise everywhere, but then only by looking on several countries to do something is not going to solve the problems. And what we've done, I mean, I think this question is also related to what our plan on our bilaterals with the Norwegian, for example. I know that I haven't really elaborated the initiatives before. Thanks for the jet lag. A lot of things in my mind right now. But what we see as why we agree, basically why we agree on having a letter of intent with the Norwegian, is that we see currently there's a lot of we're still debating in the international negotiation what is right. But we need to have an action right now. We cannot just debate. So what we saw is that if we can work with several countries to really put together what we think is demonstrations projects for the right initiatives, then why not doing it right now? And that is what we've done with our bilateral region. But we are also putting in that bilateral some notions that we cannot just see it as only bilaterals, because every the outcome, the strategies, the type of actions will be something that we will bring to the international negotiations. And the bilateral itself, it might not be a bilaterals, because what we see is more on the cooperations. Probably on the later stages, we have more and more countries as well to come and then support these collaborations. And we are also trying to look to start looking for the answers of a lot of possible funding, possible financing mechanisms for that in this bilateral as well. So that's what we see how we use the bilateral to really move as a stakes for uncertainty in the international negotiations. Yes, I think more uncertainty is not on the government, but more on the players. And this is in particular on the carbon market for RED, for example. That's a lot of questions. Is RED going to be one of the type for carbon trading offset? We still haven't got the answers because there is no kind of schemes. But I think by moving forward, the government is showing all the right and how to say intentions to really moving forward. I think it's shifting a little bit on more on the industrials people who also looking forward on this. But although in our countries, in my countries, we have a lot of negative comment, feedback from the industries because of this, but we are looking forward to it and working with them to really overcome this. And on the second questions about, well, yes, we did get a lot of offers on how to support our reforestation in particular, not the mitigation. We haven't got really much offer for energy, not like China, for example, which is in our side is we kind of feeling like now we would like to have a balance, not on deforestations but also on the energy. But then if there is a questions of is that enough? Only looking at bilaterals, or are we going to stop now voicing a very strong voices on the mitigations under the UNFCCC? I don't agree on it. Cannot, because there is not enough funding. There's never enough funding. We know that. And then we need to have all the people, I mean, really looking at what kind of unified target in the international negotiation, because this is what's driving people to do this in their own countries. So we are going to, still looking at the mitigations, finance in the UNFCCC, but we also would like, actually this is my personal opinion, it's not an indication of me, and this is not me as a negotiators, but I think what we need right now in the UNFCCC is more and more voices on how to get the funding to really move the adaptations rather than mitigation. because mitigation is always affecting everybody, and there's a lot of efforts happening right now to help more and more developing countries to do mitigations. But on adaptations, because people keep saying adaptation is not really, it's huge money we needed for adaptations. It's more cheaper to do the mitigation in developing countries. That's not true, because what happens in developing countries, if you're doing only, at least in my countries, only mitigations, and then we kind of forget that there is still a lot of people that has poverty issues, and these are people they cannot adapt with all the changes happen. And when we are saying adaptation funding, actually we are not asking for money to do the adaptation measures. But then adaptation is always related with development issues. But then if you are talking to us as developing countries, we also have to struggle really looking at our budgets to deal with trying to balance all the way to really increasing how to say the wealth of our people, but not really putting too much on the climate change. So we just only need just a small kind of money to really help to shifting some of the planning, because I know some of you, yes, and that kind of thing. So that is how we see it. And on the offset market,
just briefly.
Yes, so briefly, CDM, well, my opinion, my personal opinion, we have to have a new kind of mechanism for CDM. The current CDM is not it's just not effective. Thank you. Sorry.
No, sorry to rush you. We just want to give Tae Yong.
Again, I faced the dilemma, but I should be very quick. 2 points. One, I think we are talking about something moving issues, the international climate negotiation issue. I'm not the negotiator, but we keep talking about something moving. More than 10 years ago, when we made this special report on emission scenario from IPCC, I think Dr. Brian Fisher is there, but we didn't really imagine, we didn't really think that that report was so powerful that so many people after that, they do the exercise based on that report. We didn't really expect that. So 450 ppm target, who knows? I think after climate sciences keep advanced, that we may end up 550 or 300 ppt, we don't know yet, but it's keep moving. And the second point that I really want to make is that you're right, maybe Korea, China, and many other countries, if they're doing well domestically, for whatever reason, if they end up reducing CO2, we don't really need some international target maybe in 2020. But my whole point is, based on my own observation of last 15 years or so, instead of finger pointing each other, we do something domestically, regardless of next one or non-next, or voluntary or mandatory, it doesn't really matter. We do our best, and then let's give less pressure to the negotiators. So you are ready and you do something domestically, then you come to the international stage to negotiate something with less pressure rather than pointing each other. So that's the message that we Korea want to share. And one final thing, well, Korea has somewhat some confidence, so that we propose that we're going to hold this COP18 in 2012. We don't know yet. I mean, Korea and Qatar, those two countries are showing their intention. But COP3 in Kyoto, we had the Kyoto Protocol, and COP8 in India, New Delhi, I think we had something, and Bali roadmap, and we know that COP18, which is one of the important milestones for this climate negotiation. And why Korea proposed to host this COP? Because we know, as a global community member, we know the responsibility and pressure of hosting country. But we know that 2012 is very much important, so that we want to make some breakthrough as one of the global community member. That's the intention of Korea. But let's see. I mean, at Cancun, I hope we could make a decision so that Korea could prepare for next 2 years. Thank you.
All right. As you've guessed, we are out of time. Thank you very much, speakers. Lunch is in the same place downstairs as morning tea, and let's get back here by 1:30.